precious children of the planet Earth, as the wind sigheth through the boughs of the trees, so does the hunger of mankind for the Spirit of truth create within the mind and being a desire for a greater and more complete contact with the presence of the Divine One within the heart, mind, and being of man. The shield of God within the heart is ever the shield of faith. And the faith that men have, when it mounts up, becomes wings of light to raise the consciousness out of human dimensions into the realm of attainment and comprehension of our laws. The search for the phenomenal in human consciousness, the search for manifestation, is often the result of misguided hungers within the heart. When the soul of man truly comprehends the divine law, it goeth not out in search for the phenomenal, but seeks to unfold the divine flame within the recesses of the individual's own nature. Because the masses of mankind have never been the forerunners of the race, but always the valiant manifestation of individual lives dedicated to cosmic purposes. We are determined now this day to enhance the individual search for the sacred fire essence, the material of spiritual substance, the radiant light that entering the lantern of every man spreads abroad into a full-orbed vision for all to see, the light that is set on the hill of being. Transient is individual life. Evanescent and fading is the light of the mind that goes unnourished by frequent and recurrent contact with its own God flame. When I sat upon the throne of beauty in Shambhala and sustained for this planet its marvelous divine radiance, it was for the sake of men whose thoughts were far from me. These men did not even once, in several embodiments, so much as know my name or understand their own raison d'etre, but in an impersonal way, and for the sake of the hierarchy and the divine one above, I sustain for this planet the holy memory of Almighty God, the memory of the days within the force field of his consciousness when he poured his love through the atmosphere of the planet, and it was received with joy not only by the elemental beings of this earth, but by embodied mankind who understood the meaning of the release of the sacred fire, who understood the meaning of nourishing the God flame within themselves. In those days, when godly men met, it was for an exchange of beauty and a divine salutation. Today, when men meet, it is to observe the pleasantries of life and to manifest mortal substance. In those days, the God essence was loved by mankind above the coin of the realm, and tribute was rendered not unto Caesar, but unto God. And the banner of righteousness was upheld in the land, and the law of the golden age that made every man his brother's keeper was adored and worn upon the body in the sacred ancient writings of the censor. But the flood came, and the flood swept away mankind. But the flood was not physical in its first outpouring. The flood was spiritual decadence and spiritual ignorance. The flood came first and took mankind away into severance from the Divine One. And thus, long before the bodies of men perished, their waspish minds conceived all manner of iniquities which they practiced against one another. What do you think the law means, precious ones? The law of gold, the law engraven in the hearts of men. It is the cosmic honor flame of life. It is a tribute not only to the Ancient of Days whom ye called me, but it is a tribute to the most ancient of days, whom I addressed and served. For in the realms of hierarchy there is ever the magnificent procession of devas and cosmic beings, of avatars and servants of the light, that reaches back into an antiquity long forgotten to the heart of the central sun. There within the transcendent light of the eternal Father, the energies and intents of his heart fulfilled cosmic destiny. And great was the light that beamed through that sun behind the sun, that essence which occurred as men reckon time so many, many light years away from this planet as to be inconceivable even by the wisest among men. In this world of form, in this world of form, in this individual world of form, and in the world of every man, there is scarce a realization of the intent of God for the planet Earth, because there are many people embodied here, as your eyes would count it. You may be inclined to overestimate the quality of earth life. You may be inclined to overestimate the considerations of a heaven which, with the beauty of its telling, releases into the astronomical cosmic world, the grand macrocosm, the essence of a plan so beautiful and noble as to be worthy of the grand architect of universal love. The power of universal love is not a puny power. The power of universal love is not a transitory thing, nor will it produce an enervating manifestation. Or rather, it will produce the vital essence of life, which shakes the solar systems of the world, even as man today will shake the substance of the earth in preparation to planting in the fallow soil. Radiant then is the God intent, and it is as a song, a melody within the heart, and a melody within the hearts of every cosmic being and angel. We who deal in rings of fire, in concentric rings of fire, and in the concentric release of cosmic truth, we who know the meaning of the cosmic egg at inner levels and understand the white fire body because we yet live in it, we speak to you yet embodied in physical form, and we say, hark, the dawn appears. I address directly at the request of the hierarchy certain individuals in this room who are creating a disturbance. I warn you solemnly in the name of Almighty God that for a considerable period of time, which may accumulate to many lifetimes, any disturbance wrought against this release and this address will be accounted most solemnly against your record, and ignorance will not stand as an excuse, for this messenger warned you before this service started, and I am warning you only once, and then, if the law must be fulfilled, so be it. The purposes of this release are not understood by all mortal men. The purposes of this release are for the sake of America and as a stopgap against negative forces that seek the wanton destruction of mankind en masse. We who know the meaning of the flow of avatars, we who have seen the procession of cosmic Christ, we who have seen the Buddhas descend, we who have watched as the life streams now embodied upon this planet pleaded at the portals of birth for the opportunity to return to the screen of life, know the value of each individual life, and truly the life of a sparrow is not worth, nor is the life of many sparrows worth one living soul whom God has loved, a spirit spark of infinite cosmic identity. But oh, how illusory, precious ones, is identity. What a truly evanescent, changing thing is identity. Today you are wedded to one concept, and tomorrow you have discarded it. Today you are wedded to one idea about yourself, and tomorrow it is changed into another idea. But there is a measure of cosmic constancy which may be invoked by mankind, which will cause them to understand how deposits can be made into the cosmic bank of spiritual superabundance, how that they can harness the divine forces within their world and make a perpetual deposit forever according to the ancient priesthood of Melchizedek. Do you know the meaning of immortal life, and do you know the meaning of death? We are lords of life and of death. We understand how to bring mankind from death unto life, how to create the quickening power of universal love and universal law, which are consonant ideals. These ideals are made of cosmic fire. They are the virtue of Almighty God, and from them the substance of worlds without end was fashioned. We understand the banks of Sirius. We understand the radiant spheres of cosmic glory. We understand the beauty of illumination within the face of a holy child set upon a master's knee, of whom the master said, "Of such is the kingdom of heaven." For these holy children were not immersed in human sophistication. They were immersed in God ideals centered around the home and family, around the love for parents, and an understanding of responsibility in the human family as well as the divine. Know then that the ray that is anchored in a holy child is a sacred gift, and whosoever shall harm one of these little children of God's heart, it would be better indeed for him if a millstone were tied around his neck and he were cast into the sea of mortal illusion. There is no confusion, dear hearts, in the eternal kingdom. There is no confusion, blessed ones, in the light of God's face. His countenance is a dazzling radiation of pure fire love that pours through the universe as resounding chords of cosmic harmony. Each world emits a note in the great cosmic orchestration and has a responsibility of considered value to the light of God that does not fail, but is disseminated throughout the world sphere and in the universal order of things as the gift of divine intelligence, power, and wisdom conveyed without limit into the world of form, that that world of form may respond to the drumbeat of the cosmic mother and to the blessed rhythms of the holy eternal Father. The androgynous nature of God, although clearly depicted upon the human form, is not understood by mankind. They do not recognize how that the white fire body of a mortal substance has been cleaved in twain, and that God has made of one two, and thus called them male and female. They do not understand the meaning of this. They do not understand duality, but they misunderstand it, and by a considered misappropriation of energy, they go out into the world of form and find themselves trapped again and again behind a veil of mortal illusion, supposing themselves to be separate from one another and from God and nature's God. They walk as though they were kings in a world where they have merited nothing but beggarly. Responsibility is the responsibility of a living Christ, and responsibility does not sleep, even as God does not sleep. For he who keepeth Israel, he who keepeth all that is real about man and about life, does not slumber and does not sleep. He watcheth over the children of men and over their comings and goings. He bringeth his light into the domain of darkness, and his light is set upon the hill, and it radiates and pours out power into the world order. Yet the world order does not realize the release of that substance and from whence it came, and thus they appropriate it as though it were their own, and they consider for a moment that because they can move their earthly limbs and impel themselves by the power of thought to act, that they have indeed achieved some preeminence in the world of form. Yet they are but babes in the eyes of God, and the knowledge that is imparted unto mankind below, even to the greatest scientists, is but a small fragment of the scintillating sun. It is but as a pinch of dust, and betimes it is but as a single grain, or one split yet into many particles. We are not concerned with belittlement. We are concerned with dispelling illusion, and we are concerned with restoring to mankind in his own domain, the domain of the individual, a solemn recognition of cosmic responsibility, an understanding of life, that life awaits to pour out to the doorway of individuals the blessing of true Christ dimension, the blessing of cosmic comprehension, the blessing of pure perfection, the blessing of resurrection and resurrection's flame. Resurgam Christos. Arise then, O light within men, and summon thy divine energies as never before. For the time is short, and the cosmic lords have deliberated long as to that activity which has now become a fait accompli in embryonic state, now manifesting at this instant in the world of form and causing hearts to tremble. You will find, precious ones, that man is indeed in his mortal state as the chaff before the wind. The beloved one who has sinned the sin of ignorance, who has ignored the divine power that gave him birth and has ignored cosmic purposes, will one day stand face to face, and he cannot escape it, before his own divine presence, and an accounting and a reckoning shall be made for each part of life. Call it judgment or what you will. It is the opportunity for that soul to either live or become as though he were indeed a part of that which is death. Man himself has asked for life, and to him was given the precious fragment, the spark of God's own energy, which he calls life, and which is the precious power to free him from all mortal error and transport him into the dimensions of pure spirit while he yet walks the earth below, accomplishing then in God's name the full intent and purpose of the divine ideals, to draw forth from the sacred fire itself through the flame within his own heart that which will nourish every divine quality within and make him free from all mortal sin and error, with error's pains, pangs of darkness. This God would destroy by transmuting it into light, releasing the white fire core of pure energy within the center of the ray, and seeing that shadow that now exists today in the appearance world of form is no longer reborn in the mind of men, but is separated from them again and again by the great separating power that saith unto the chaff, Thou shalt be blown, even as a whirlwind shall blow thee, and never shalt thou be any more. For darkness and pain and ignorance and bane and suffering and weakness shall all disappear, as the Lord of glory with the fan in his hand shall come to the threshing floor, and shall say unto that floor, Behold, the time has come, as in the days of Noah before the preparing of the ark, as in the days when men laughed and danced and sang and made an altar unto themselves. So has it now come into the world that mankind have ignored the wonderful permanent gift of God's love, and have sought rather to administer their lives by a code which they have created, and felt that they were above the law, which is the law of love. Therefore, they are today berated not by our record, but by their own cosmic record, which they have made. And there is no outer condition which can change it, save that precious divine intent which must be reframed within to create the bent that is no longer slanted toward the sin of ignorance, but acknowledgement instead of the priceless gift which God has placed ahead of every mortal illusion, and said, Thou shalt follow in the steps I walk, within the hollow of my footprint thou shalt walk. Hear then the voice of authority within yourself. You need not merely listen to our words beamed to you through this messenger. You can find the drumbeat of Almighty God in every precious heartbeat within your own frame. You can claim within the thoughts of your own mind the power to release from yourself all that binds and blinds. You can comprehend the power of that flame which has made of your flesh, form, and bones a frame for you to inhabit for a time. Now then, be released from the sense of all that's not divine, and feel that flame blaze through. Feel that pulse that is you, not I, but you, coming down from above you through the sky as a bolt of electrifying cosmic substance intended to set you free now and forever, but not for you alone, but for the world and for all men that have ever lived here, to atone for all that they have ever done here, which is less than the perfection of the eternal moment of divine direction. Understand now the law that is within thyself, and it would be well if ye stood in holy awe. From the courts of the sacred fire I speak, and out of the flame I have come. I have come from thyself, from thy true self, and as the Ancient of Days, I would restore the precious days of praise to the world, when men could walk the streets and without fear unfurl the banner of their allegiance to divine things. Today fear is wrought a strange stupor in the midst of the congregation of the righteous, and men are ashamed lest men should think them ridiculous because they speak the name of God. What strange thing is this in the courts of God? Men not drifting as a raft upon the ocean of life, but men to whom the cosmic craft has given the summum bonum of all life. To you I say, the angels minister this day without fear, and the flame of God is right here within you. It will appear to your mind if you will open the doorway of that mind and let flow our direction here below, to transform the world and show to all upon it that the world is a thing of beauty and opportunity unparalleled anywhere in the universe, where God will stoop to wash the feet of men with the fire of his heart, who will offer them all from himself that does impart radiance and a new opportunity to start right where they left off, adoring the plan divine, adoring the flame that's thine, adoring the way I am, adoring the way, defend it then, and commend it by your acceptance of it. Won't you please be seated? Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Lady Venus, who accompanied me into your midst, spake unto me and said, just a moment now past, my beloved one, have you not perhaps released too much of the fire of your heart? And might it be just a little bit wiser if perhaps you had spoken a wee bit softer? And I tell you this, that you may know that heaven's sons can also accept that type of divine direction that defends the law of a man's being. And so I stand as your advocate before the courts of light. If you will accept your own divine opportunity this day, this night, I will stand for you before the cosmic record and assist you in unraveling the snarls within the ball of yarn, so tangled of mortal substance, so jangled and confusing. I will teach you, even as Maitreya did teach the Christ. I will guide you as the Buddha did Ananda. I will assist you and help you as you walk the path that is straight into the realms of divine perfection. Not a fate of misshapen direction, where men conceive that some willy-nilly law, as a will-o'-the-wisp appearing over the human marshes, touches down here and then there. Nay, I say, I will convey the essence of a straight path that leads to the law of cycles fulfillment in a realm of vast universal complementation. For God will complement each soul and unite each individual in the course of due time with the other half of the self, that whom God has joined together, let no man put asunder. and ye shall all find that beautiful paradise of perfection at the end of the road, the perfect day. Do you know, precious ones, Mother Mary comes to me at this moment to say unto you all that a very special thing has been done for Carrie Jacobs Bond, who wrote The End of a Perfect Day. Those of you who wish to understand that which has happened may apply to your divine presence. For Mother Mary agrees with the hierarchy. We must be extremely careful as we release information to the students that they may always derive from it the best gifts and graces. In the name of the living Christ within ye all, and in the name of divine understanding, I want you all to recognize in the story of the destruction of Sodom the mercy of God concerning this earth. Bear well in mind that Sodom did not stand, although Abraham defended it. Bear well in mind that this earth is but a speck of cosmic dust, and they who walk it by divine grace's occasion must respect that occasion. And one cannot stand in the court and in the docket for another, answering for his sins. The world must accept the responsibility of life that wins and wins and wins and wins and wins and wins. Proceed. Sign of the heart, the hand, and the hand to you. May the peace of your presence abide with you wherever you are, wherever you go. May the glorious peace from your presence flow. Through days of service and nights of rest, may the peace from your presence keep you blessed. The sign of the heart and the head and the hand to you. May Gautama's cosmic cross of white fire watch between thee and me as we are absent the one from the other. Ladies and gentlemen, floating in the cosmic ethers, mindful of the hopes manifold within you, I desire this night, as never before, to unfold the dignity of the rose of life, the soul of God, in form, into a breathing awareness made known to your blessed consciousness. The struggles for existence multiplied by mortal efforts can be simplified by a sweet sense of grace, a sweet sense that desires in depth to acknowledge divine grace planted within the heart by the hand of God. The light of the eye, the alacrity of thought as it speeds across the brain and consciousness into action, into living awareness, is meteoric. It is a flash in the apparent night side of being, which comes to life and speaketh unto mankind by the power of the Logos. I am being, existence, consciousness, bliss, and awareness is a series of words embodied within the name of God. For by the power of being and beingness, by the power of the I am principle of life that maketh known and manifest within the domain of the individual, the very living being of God, man is able to rise out of the limited dimensions of mortal existence until he comes face to face with a reality so dazzling, so blinding, so full of hope, that at first he cannot realize that which is manifesting within the force field of being. But as that force field begins to pulsate in the arena of world action, and greater manifestations of holy thoughts begin to pass as the pulse of the Divine One across the screen of the mind, man is aware that outside of himself, as well as within, there is an electric contact, a spark, a living flame, a breathing reality. And so he quests, and in the quest, his questions are answered by action from the divine level. Therefore, the balloons of mortal illusion are punctured by the darts of cosmic effort, and man comes to realize that there is a divine overseer interested in the development within himself of all that is holy and all that is lovely, that which will escort him out of the field of the flesh and its travail into the beauty of the divine monastic life. Please do not misconstrue my words, gracious ones, to think that I am advocating either marriage or non-marriage. I refer to a monotheism, and I refer to a monastic sense whereby man develops the sense of the oneness of his own being. The divine counterpart of that being will, of course, unite with the individual, producing the perfect pair. Those whom God himself hath united, let no man put asunder. But the end of existence is not in the concept of merely seeking for one's twin ray or pursuing some individual in embodied form, but understanding that the great monotheism, which is the requirement of the hour, is integration by both male and female of themselves with their divine presence. This union produces the fruit of holy sonship in all who are able to share in its beauty. I have had some experience, precious ones, in connection with gems, and while mankind might not certify me as a gemologist, I think that I am aware of how to produce within the heart of a gem a radiation of the sacred fire, which will cause the luster of that gem to increase many times before the eyes of man. I recall that often at the court of France, as I entered the door and my name was announced, the nobles of the court would turn and gaze upon me, primarily because of the luster in the jewels which I wore. Thus, men are often caught in the glamour of ephemeral and temporary things, but in actuality, some of these jewels, precious ones, were not at all temporary, but they were permanent manifestations of a great God flame within the heart of the gem. This process is, of course, unknown to mankind unascended, and they are incapable of producing such manifestations in the world of form. However, I would be quite glad to impart the secret unto them if they will do all that I desire them to do and reunite themselves with their divine presence, coming to me at inner octaves of light where they will no longer require the secret, for they will have it as a part of their divine grace and the radiance of the Divine One, the crown of life resting upon their brow as accomplishment in victory. Strange as it may seem, it is always in a time of need that mankind seems to seek to rise up to the precise requirement of the moment and produce a certain quality which will supply that need. But when there is a sense of struggle about the supply, there is always a stirring of the stream of radiant energies which otherwise would crystallize into manifestations simply because the gusts of the mind create such turbulence that the very idea which they try to posit into the world of form is blown away in their lusty and gusty breath. Calmness of mind then is needed, and a sense of knowing within the soul that perfection is produced by the holding of divine concepts, not by their rejection. Let men choose, if they will, to reject our concepts. They deprive no one of us of any good thing, but only themselves. And this is what has happened not infrequently, but far too frequently in the world of form. If I seem to wax hot, remember that I am concerned with the freedom of every man, and I too am no respecter of men's persons, loving the least among men as much as the greatest. In the days of my attendance at the court of France, I sought to influence the noble of birth and those who were in positions of power as a means of reaching the hearts of the people and conveying to them all the blessings of divine grace. Having failed in securing the attention of the court of France and other of the crowned heads of Europe, I turned myself to the perfectionment of mankind at large, and I recognized that among mankind there were many who, hungering and thirsting after righteousness, would indeed be filled with the divine perfection which would enable them to take command in the domain of mankind and create ideas of union among the sovereign states. Thus, the United States was born as a child of my heart, and the early American Revolution was indeed a means of bringing freedom in all of its glory into manifestation from the east unto the west. And so progress has been born. And here in this teeming country where life is flowing ever onward, men coming and going at large, there is a great need for understanding of the forces that have acted in the world of form, that have produced conditions of bondage, and have created an opposition to the divine intent which not only my life stream, but the life stream of all the ascended masters has sought to foster and nourish in the hearts of men. For example, men do not realize or completely understand that those of us who were at one time indeed rulers of civilization should encourage the creation of labor unions among mankind, and yet we did it. We did it in order to free mankind from the oppression that was being wreaked upon the very young, who were being forced into a life of servitude, producing then in the world of form an activity of freedom for the young of heart, that they might study and understand the gaiety of life. However, those who do not understand all that is done from the ascended master's level might indeed look askance for a moment at this, because it might be contrary to some of their opinions. But I want to call to your attention that it was later in the formation of the labor movement that certain barons of power moved in and used and misused and abused that which we had secured originally for the freedom of man. Remember, precious ones, that a divine idea in itself is an idea to convey and bequeath to mankind the power of freedom. But what men do with their freedom is their own solemn responsibility. And if that which they call freedom becomes a means of enslaving themselves and others beneath a hammer and a sickle, then we are not for it. For we stand today for the freedom of America from every form of dominion, from every form of mortal tyranny, and we are determined to keep this great nation free. And therefore, tonight, as a means of securing God's freedom, I desire to give to all within the confines of this room a certain gift from my heart. I am going to use liquid light tonight, and I am going to beam liquid light through this room to clear the minds of the individuals assembled here of certain thoughts which are not charged with compassion or the correct attitude of receptivity toward the ascended master's light. You have seen an adding machine, and you know that a certain sum may indeed rest within its vitals. That adding machine can be cleared by the simple movement of a key, and therefore the machine is returned back to zero. I shall not move in the minds of those who do not desire me, and therefore it shall be only with implied consent that I shall act. Therefore, if you do not wish tonight to have my light rays pass through your being, simply register the thought in your mind, no, and I shall pass you by, even as the death angel passed the children of Israel by in the night of the Passover. But if you desire to have the benefit of my ministrations on behalf of your immortal soul, then simply just breathe in the air of freedom and know that I am here to produce the world of God perfection in the world of form. To sustain it will not be possible, for I shall only perform it perforce for a specific service of anchoring within your world the vibratory actions which I subsequently will release in worded form, and which also I shall release by the power of the Spirit of life that is resident within me. Quick! Quick! Quicken! It is done. Ladies and gentlemen, in the beginning the Word was. And when the Word went forth, it caused rejoicing in the courts of heaven. For there then was no world of form known unto the ego, save the world of divine form. The cathedrals of heaven were rainbow vaulted, magnificent places where the ascended masters from other systems of worlds, the cosmic beings, the angels, the archangels, stood and sat from time to time on raised dais. Thus, the multitudes of those courts, the beings, the egos, the individual identities, stood arrayed in robes of white, waiting the opportunity of descending into flesh form for the glory of God in worlds without end below. Many of you were in that group and were aware of the pulsations of infinite love as it poured from the heart of God, dazzling and scintillating light rays, now unknown to mankind. You basked in a light that flooded your being, and the feeling of God happiness that then came thundering through your world was light and love and power made manifest. The rays of light that poured from your presence into your being gave you such happiness and peace that no worded description can ever convey to the mind, but only the divine feeling, those moments of celestial bliss when you abode in the consciousness of God, when the divine radiance was very nigh and there was no sense of limitation in your world, when doubt did not exist and fear and all of the human qualities which are foibles of mortal fallacy. Then at that moment you knew and rejoiced with the sons of God, and the paeans of praise that rose from your heart added to the rapture of the divine ones who were assembled there. I cannot create for you these images and bring them to life. You must recreate for yourself from the halls of divine memory those precious moments when you communed with your own divine reality. In a consciousness of that great God freedom, I come and stand among you tonight to remind you that the world that is now appearing before the screen of your mind, the outer world of form, with all of its smoke and fury, can roll up as a scroll with the prick of an instant when the individual departs the world of form for the celestial realms, we hope, but certainly to go out of that body temple. It is not our desire that you shall go out into a realm of darkness, but into a realm of light, not as a rudderless ship or one without chart and compass, but as men and women who can respond to the call of the ancient mariner, to the call of the Ancient of Days, to the call of your own divine self, which does exist in the atmosphere right above you, and is pouring its love and light into your mortal form now in the holy name of freedom. But what of society? What of your brothers now wedded to form? What of the many who do not know? What of those who cannot comprehend? Of those who have not yet developed the mind to understand the laws of light? What of those who are idiots and in asylums? What of those who need and require the healing of divine grace to repair the breaches and weld the facets of the mind into a comprehensible whole, that light may flow over that whole and convey divine intelligence without limit? I come tonight in a spirit of cosmic invocation, and I plead with the board which you call the karmic board to raise the veil for a moment and to permit myriad angels from the realms of light and from the octaves of cosmic healing to descend into the atmosphere of this room and of this planet, and to seal and heal among you those who have certain infirmities, that there may be an activity germinal within your being which will produce the perfection of life there, even as the magnificence of the cosmic Christ manifesting through the Lord whom you call Jesus the Christ did manifest among the people of Judea the beauty and perfection of God. But remember, and I say this with solemnity, gracious ones, remember that those who were raised from the dead and those who were healed in a temporal, physical manner did indeed pass through the change called death at a later date. And therefore I advocate that you shall all understand that the greatest healing in the name of freedom which can ever come to a man is the quickening of the immortal power of God realization within his consciousness. It is not a question of human goodness. It is not a question of human qualification for divine ideals. God himself qualified you from the beginning. And mankind has misqualified the energies which God placed within the repository, within the chalice of life, which is the force field of every individual. Those energies were holy, they were pure, and they remain above you as holy, as pure chalices of light, conveying and holding in the precious causal body of man's being. The concentric color rings, which are in this chart, which show that every man has within himself the power to quicken the mortal form and to guide it as God directed in the beginning. These laws not only require study, they require application, and they are intense in their demands upon the energies of man. If man is to become completely whole, he must give his whole being to his divine presence. He cannot hold back one portion safely. And if he seek to permit himself to become identified with his Creator, with the Infinite One, and hold back part of the price, like Ananias and Sapphira before the feet of Peter, he will find that portion of himself fallen and destroyed. Thus, he who seeks to save his life shall certainly lose it. But he who loses himself within the realms of his infinite causal body shall find his life again, pulsating in every place where God is. For God is right where you are. And if you will claim it and say, I am a being of divine grace, it will be so. And men will behold upon the screen of life, especially those who are able to discern wisely, that a divine being is occupying that frame which formerly you called your own. You are not your own was spoken to you by St. Paul, for you are bought with a price. And the price that was paid by the infinite, eternal Father in the beginning. He gave unto the prodigal creation the right to go forth into the world of form and to manifest all that the individual willed. And the will of the individual, because of the absorption of wrong principles in the world of form, has continually willed otherwise than God has willed. And thus ye see here upon the screen of life myriad personalities, myriad individuals who are activated by corrupting principles of life and know it not. They do not understand or comprehend even the law of re-embodiment too much in the Western Hemisphere. But in the East it has become an accepted fact. Let now the men of the West take a new look at life and understand that life is eternal. Let them understand that in the eternality of life, cosmic Christ principles are resurrected again and again. But let men not, because of the continuity of life, flaunt the precious gift that is offered and feel that they can do so with impunity. For certainly, if life is anything, precious ones, life is just. And if life is just, then it will convey to you the righteousness which you send out just as safely and correctly as it does the unrighteousness which you unwittingly send out, and in a few cases, I am sorry to say, which you send out without recognition. The time has come when more and more individuals are awakening in this day and age to the God reality of themselves. They are awakening to the holy cause of their freedom, and they realize that within the domain of personal self-willed life, there is no freedom at all, but only license to do. And certainly today, as you behold the young of the world who have taken this spirit of license to do as rebellion against the codes of society, you see that in the domain of the human family, a fierce breed has arisen. But perhaps it might be beneficial if I were to convey to you tonight the reality of many of these young people. Many of them, precious ones, were actually, because of their corrupted nature, not permitted to embody for generations after generations, but were held in what amounts to chambers of darkness, bound and prevented from manifestation upon the screen of life, lest they should once again become bad apples in the barrel to spoil others. Now the law has been fulfilled and come full cycle, and therefore a whole crop has been dumped upon this generation, and because of that, they are linking themselves together, encouraging corruption among others of the youth of the world, and rebelling against that code of humanities which has become so very much a part of jurisprudence in the world of form. Let it be clear then to all that the safety of the laws of society is very great, and that codification of those laws, dating even from before the time of Hammurabi, has manifested in the world of form as a counterpart of a divine jurisprudence, a cosmic justice, if you will, a justice which cannot be construed by mortal minds, but will always acknowledge within itself that caste which is indeed prologue, and understand that it is the record of every man's doings. The happenings and events in the world of form are collective events, as humanity by their doings casts upon the pathway of life collectively the shadow of coming events. In this present era, when men's hearts are definitely quaking and failing them for fear of what is coming upon the earth, there is an additional need for compassion upon mankind. You must recognize the terror that is spread abroad upon the earth in the hearts of those who do not have any knowledge whatsoever of re-embodiment. Those who do not understand how these events conspire against the body of mankind. Those who do not understand how that freedom is imperiled by man's indignities against man. That which offends one offends all. That which justifies one and raises and ennobles one ennobles all. All that men do then is welded into a universal whole, and try as man may, he cannot break this law. Therefore, he must accept that which he cannot break. Yet, again and again, individuals feel that they are above the law or outside the domain of the law, and thus they flaunt the law, which is a criminal act in the world of form, simply because among the intelligentsia and the learned politicos of the world, there is a certain amount of misqualification of substance, varying from nation to nation and place to place. Mankind feel disposed to flaunt the law which those who are sworn to uphold it do. This too then produces, by the power of bad example in the world of form, an activity of decay in the world at large. Those of you who are interested in producing virtue in society will recognize that by upholding the law in the domain of your own personal self, you are upholding it everywhere and for every son of heaven. These words are real. They are the intent of God himself, focused through the ages and codified as divine reality. Bear then allegiance to the law of life and to the laws of God, for there is a similitude even between mortal law and respect for it, and respect for the laws of God. Remember, precious ones, that the mankind of earth have themselves, by attunement with the humanities and the spirit of humanity, brought forth, under the direction of a divine aegis, the laws which you call mortal, and which men and nations have sworn to uphold and protect. Society has moved forward through the ages, and you are standing now at the crossroads of the divine adventure, when all of the negative forces of the world that from the beginning have sought the destruction of mankind conspire now to bring to each one and to society as a whole a great cosmic test. Shall man then arise? Shall he arise to the exigencies of the occasion and be that which he is in reality? Or shall he descend into the degradation of Pompeii and to the degradation of civilizations now broken? Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your tribute. Won't you please be seated? The destiny of mortal men is strictly up to themselves, and never before in history has mankind stood at the crossroads of such eternal possibilities. The possibilities are collective and individual, and those who feel that individual salvation is superior to collective salvation should look again upon the screen of life and the mighty law that was penned by the Spirit of Almighty God, a law which declares, I am my brother's keeper. Those who feel that all salvation is collective and that they should ignore individual salvation, let them look again upon the need to be the fullness of that which they can be. Righteous, yea. Wise, yea. Pure, yea. Consecrated, yea. Dedicated, yea. Performing in action, yea. All these things men ought to be within the domain of the individual, so that the individual can arise to perform the most efficacious service possible to life. All individuals do not find themselves at a given moment capable of rendering a supreme service. All individuals cannot be at a given moment a Christ unto mankind. But they can, by divine faith, seize the precious gift of the moment and accept the highest offerings which life has to themselves. And in the eyes of God, this penny of human offering is just as great as $1 million to those who possess it. It is the qualities of dedication that come from within yourselves that are accepted by the courts of heaven. It is the dedication which you feel within yourself, which in your own limited orbit will mean just as much as the service of the sun of this system of worlds means to the planets in this planetary chain. Let all understand then in the holy name of freedom that right where you are, God is, and he seeks to captivate your hearts and your desires, not in order that you shall become servitors, merely bowing to himself, to his name and fame, to his flame, to all that he is, but rather that you shall accept his laws as laws of life, workable in the arena of action, and serving to deliver the entire planet from all that has kept it bound and has caused mankind to render a frightful disservice to themselves. When I was at the court of France, and when I dealt with the Louis kings and with others of the crowned heads of Europe, I often found it possible to reach them when all else would fail through human vanity. And thus I would give them some specific jewel which I wore upon my person, and find that they were quickly enamored by it and seemed to bear me a great allegiance. On several occasions I was able to ask for a law in the name of the people. I recall one instance where if I had been heeded, the entire French Revolution would never have occurred. But unfortunately, people have a habit of demanding what they want when they want it, and then forgetting it very quickly afterward, even when offering their promises to an ascended being. Of course, let me make it clear that they did not recognize me as an ascended being. On several occasions, I would pass through a pair of double doors with guards on each side, and then when I was out of sight from anyone, I would simply dissolve my form. Then individuals would pursue, and not finding me would wonder, where has Saint Germain gone? But they could not find me. The beloved Master Jesus, in his Galilean embodiment, on many occasions did likewise, even prior to his ascension. So the laws enabling mankind to dissolve the form can be mastered even by unascended individuals. And I would like to point out to you that there are a few individuals upon this planet who are able to do this very self-same thing. So please do not think, if you should see one of them disappear, that they are indeed ascended beings, for this is possible of mastery to mankind in the outer world of form when they have reached a certain point of dedication and comprehension of the framework of their physical body and learn and master the control of the points of light within that body. Understand that unascended mankind are very close to their presence, because, strange as it may seem to you, even the criminal element of life, even those who reach the point of being a betrayer of their life's energy, are not too far from the divine base of being. The actual difference between an ascended being and an unascended is not as great as you might imagine. And I tell you this because I want the star of hope tonight to blaze within the firmament of your being, that you may no longer have the idea that this chasm is so broad you cannot jump over it. With God all things are possible, and with the God that is within you all things are possible even quicker than you may realize. And we are interested in contacting not only the quick but the dead. For the quick have some idea of what I'm speaking about, and the dead may have no idea, but they can, if they will awaken from their sleep of lethargy, come to a point where they will understand it. By the laws of science, mankind seeks to probe the universe, and they have gone far, but they have not yet discovered the secrets of life which we of the ascended realm have long known. Nor is it highly likely that they will fully realize their ambitions to control the genes within the allotted span of time which they presently think. It is true that a great deal can be done for the life evolutions of this planet in a very constructive way by the scientists of the world, but they cannot engineer the responses of the soul, nor can they engineer fidelity, integrity, grace, and the love ray of Almighty God within the heart chalice. They do not understand how to create spiritually. They understand only how to create materially and frame the building. We understand not only how to frame the building, but how to energize that frame with the living spirit, the animus, that breathes life into the form and creates for a space, a span upon this world, a form, a life wave that moves as a being among men and perceives itself, other men, and other conditions, and hears the voices of men and the voices crying in the wilderness of being, and does not always comprehend that which it hears. That you may comprehend in a greater measure is my prayer this night. For unfortunately, men have dipped their toes into the ocean and have noticed how that the cold of the ocean does sometimes numb their toes and cause a swift flow of blood to that lower member of the body temporarily, causing it to tingle. This flow in of vitality is an example which I am using to show that mankind will dip their toes into the ocean of God being and then retreat as though they were shot. What is the reason for this, precious ones? We have asked ourselves at inner levels. Are men afraid of life? Are they afraid of the ocean of God identity? Do they fear that they will indeed lose their life if they shall come in closer contact with their divine presence? What is the reason for man's desire to retreat at the precise moment when we desire to convey to them the very gifts of immortal life? And when their divine presence descends and places its loving arms around their being, there are some that very gingerly step backward as though they were afraid. Let fear now then be dispelled from mankind's heart. Would you prefer that you should depart the physical form and then find at inner levels that you were indeed a rudderless ship? Would you prefer that we would ignore your life and leave you alone to become a solitary climber upon the mountain? We think not, and therefore we continue to serve the causes of mankind's immortal freedom. We continue to pour our love light and the essence of ourself, the great God flame that we have, which has caused us to breathe the air of infinite freedom and descend into the world of form again and again to convey our felicity to mankind. Why do we do this? We do it in order that we may infuse you with vitality and with our concepts of life so that you may have your own freedom and bear the God flame in cosmic honor. This is reason enough for us. We do not ask for your purse. We do not ask even for your person. We give you your God freedom. We give you your own power of free will choice. We permit you to do as you will, but we offer ourselves in the service of the great light for the freeing of mankind. This is wholly within the framework of cosmic reason. It is not only permissive, it is permissible and desirable and infinitely superior to ignoring mankind and letting them go their collective ways to their collective destruction. Do you know, precious ones, that tomorrow evening the great divine director intends to raise the curtain upon epic cosmic events? Do you know that the great divine director intends to direct into your midst light rays of future prognostication and will show to you at inner levels a series of cosmic visions, mighty glyphs of infinite light, which will give you some concept of that which is coming unto the earth and which will give you perspective and direction in this hour of world turmoil. Well, precious ones, I may as well tell you with regret that some individuals here do not seem to possess the perspicacity or the desire to pursue the spiritual path to the extent of listening fully to that which I had intended to bring to you this night. And therefore, because it is our desire to bow even to the one who desires us to stop, we shall defer, and we shall bow to the God flame within you all, and we shall say, we take our adieu, we take our leave, but we will come again, and the hour more propitious will dawn, when receptive hearts will invoke the God flame before they come into our radiance, that they may be sustained by that infinite light, to hear all of God's delight which we desire to convey, that they may receive it is our prayer, not for our own sake, for we have long escaped from the realms of the earth and its minions. We are free from human opinions. We are free from flights of fancy, and even the flight of the bumblebee is not heard in our realm. Therefore, precious ones, as we leave, remember, it is not a leaving without love, but a leaving in love, a leaving in fire, a leaving to inspire you to come and listen another day when we will raise you a step higher in the realm of God's own way, and by his ray convey infinite peace and freedom today and forevermore. Angels of the Cross of Malta, descend. Form the cosmic image and defend. Angels of the Cross of Malta, wing thy way. Angels of the Cross of Malta, blaze forth today over the world of a single solitary humanity, the banner of our freedom, fourfold in all dimensions, charging all with the gold of divine intentions, remembering the Creator in the days of a youthful humanity, that they may be wrapped in the flame of love from his heart, is our prayer. Peace, love, blessings to all. In God's name, I am. gracious ones of the light, Invictus, I come, and I say unto you of the Sherpas in India, high in the Himalayan heights, that their sure-footedness stands as a memorial to their accomplishment, an accomplishment of survival. The souls of men who are sure-footed are able to survive midst the icy crevasses, which as yawning pits will, in an unguarded moment, cause the individual who is not wary to fall and to be destroyed midst the peaks of unknown quantity. The light of the Christ, the luminous orbs of heaven, shine forth their light, and it does not require a magician or an astrologer to be able to predict that that light from on high does radiate forth into the world of form some guidance of consciousness to mankind. We have witnessed the destructive activity of uncertainty which sometimes plagues men who seek to climb the solitary peaks, and frequently alone, spurning our help, spurning the aid of heaven, or the assistance of those more experienced among mankind. These individuals proceed on their own. The jagged peaks present a challenge to them, and they are determined to pursue that challenge. Men have risked their lives for lesser objects than to survive a climb upon the mountain. But we are concerned with spiritual values, and man does not have many souls. Therefore, the needs of the hour and of the day are for serious recognition of service toward the light of holy truth, expounded from within the God flame of every man's heart. Weary are the travelers who have suffered again and again reverses in their search for the light of holy truth. And we are today sending rays and beams of encouragement to those upon the spiritual path who have searched that they may know the will of God, only to again and again be plagued with the certitude of their own doubts, which, like a relentless insect humming in the atmosphere, becomes a deterrent force, a force bent on destruction, a force bent on holding back the mighty love tide of the soul as it seeks to unfold its own latent divinity. Were you to come at this hour, late though it may be, to our abode, and were you to come knocking upon our door, I think that we would open wide our door if the light within thy heart would at least approximate the light upon our hearth. For upon our hearth there is blazing a tangible flame dedicated to the will of God. The will of God is within every man, but in some it is stifled and dampened until it has no tangible reality to offer to them in the moments when their hearts crave the warmth of the fires of the Spirit. Deep within the soul, there is a cosmic echo planted. It is the echo of a cosmic perfection man once knew. It is the echo of a cosmic perfection faded from view. Now in this hour of need, when the souls of men are mounting in hunger for spiritual bread, we invite you to come to our feet that we may raise you to the level of your own divine presence. We desire no adulation. We desire no consecration to our personality, even though we be ascended. We desire only that you shall serve the light and know the light and comprehend the light. To comprehend the light by understanding is a great blessing to those who are able to receive it. In this world today, precious ones, there are many uncertainties facing mankind, and these uncertainties are often multiplied with the passing of the years. Many individuals who earlier in life walked with sure-footedness and assurance find that as the days have passed, they possessed less certitude of knowing. Let them now no longer hang their heads in shameful doubt, but let them raise their consciousness and their cup of being to Archangel Michael's realm. For I have asked him tonight to come with me and to give to every doubter the understanding and comprehension of the law etched within his own heart. There is a savage activity in darkness, for darkness stifles the light of the soul. And therefore, all who would have the blessedness of wholeness in their being must open the windows of that being, that the light of God may flow in, that the light of God may shine into the darkened recesses of mind and consciousness and bring to them the renaissance of the goodness and beauty of spiritual power. Of what value is power if it cannot be used rightly? Of what value is the law if the law cannot be understood? Of what value are the ascended master teachings if men cannot appropriate them in a practical manner? And therefore tonight it is our desire to cause a certain radiation to pour forth from our octave into the great God flame that is within your heart, and to reactivate that where that flame has become dormant, and cause that flame to pulsate as though one were to blow upon a hot coal. The fanning of the flame of the will of God within the individual monad is our real intent this night. And therefore, if you attune correctly with us tonight, you will feel an activity of strength forging into the very bones of your being our substance of holy devotion to the will of God. You have heard it said that the will of God is good. You have heard it said that the will of God is nigh unto man. And this is an assertion which the wise ones have always embodied within themselves. They have not sought so much to find it without as to arouse it within, and to let the stimulation of the immortal presence evoke a flame of future love for that which God would one day externalize of his own magnificence within their consciousness. Do you understand what I am telling you? I am saying to you that tonight you have a little taste of the goodness of God's will. You have a taste of the divine morsel. But I am saying to you that with the passing of time and the right action, you will find there is a multiplication of that morsel until the entire mountain becomes on fire for the spiritual good which can come about into manifestation as you love the will of God above the human will. Permissiveness is the order of the day. And if I were a head schoolmaster upon this planetary body, and I were to encounter among the youth in my class the type of permissiveness which is now in vogue, I think that I could scarcely, knowing what I do know, restrain myself from utilizing the maxim, spare the rod and spoil the child. Yet today there is a tendency that is ridiculous on the part of mankind, which tends to criticize as an activity of sinister force creation all that seeks to discipline mankind and call to his attention the error of his ways. Are we then to wink upon all that men do, that in the end causes them to slink and wish that they were among the few who know the law? I think not, for the law today is very much in vogue in our octave, even if it is not so popular here below. We are not concerned with personal popularity, having clean escaped from that outer world manifestation, and we are not even in competition with one another, but we are determined that we will pursue that which is excellent in the eyes of God, and while pursued by the few on earth, should be the pursuit of the many, who would then benefit from all that they would externalize of cosmic virtue within their soul. Now, gracious ones, you have heard, many of you, the address of Chananda of the evening last past. You are aware of the tenseness of the world situation, and you are aware of the intense activity that is taking place now upon this planet, seeking to destroy every God design before it can be externalized. I want now to tell you something which I wish you to forget. You may say to me, why then do you tell it to us if you wish us to forget it? It is because it is apropos and convenient to tell it to you to create a climate for that which will follow later in the class. And therefore, you will understand through our precognition that the law can be fulfilled by mankind's acceptance of truth and revelation in varying degrees imparted to mankind in order to create a climate for that which is benign and is to come. This is clearing out the stumps, blessed ones, which bar the pathway to development for the pioneers who desired to erect their own cabins upon this plot of hallowed ground, the concept of the light as it affects them individually and in the world of form. Time is very much linked with space, desh, and thus we call to your attention that you are in effect upon the barge of life, flowing upon the river of time, and very much aware of the world of space around yourself. Therefore, let mankind who desire to think through the eternal equation decide that it is not proper for us to reveal that which we wish to reveal. We do not care, for we have had now some little experience in this matter, and we are quite aware of just how we can evoke the best responses from mankind, although we will admit that there are times when great puzzlement occurs even at inner levels because of the unpredictability of human consciousness. However, tonight I elect to believe that in this room there are any number of devotees whose hearts are flooded with devotion to their divine presence, to the first cause in their life. And I choose to believe, because of this devotion, that I can safely reveal that which I wish and safely conceal that which I wish, without so much as a shred of mortal comment coming to me through the ethers to disturb those ethers which are so beautifully charged with the radiance of the holy will of the Infinite One. That I myself am almost askance that I must disturb them in order to convey to you the impetus which I desire to do. Realize then that I am imparting to you tonight the benefit of my radiation, especially my radiation, even to those who do not fully comprehend my words and say to yourself, I wonder just what El Morya is driving at. Well, precious ones, I am driving at a better life for mankind, a happier life, one that is less saturated with mortal pride, one where men can let drop the veils of illusion which they have once created, and can see clearly how that by pursuing the spiritual path to an ultimate conclusion, they can only benefit themselves in an ultimate way, even as they will further benefit their fellow men, and thus evoke a manifestation of the infinite law of spiritual supply, whereby I, together with others of the ascended masters, can answer the calls and prayers that men have addressed to me for a more divine comprehension of the immortal laws of spiritual radiance. Now then, in this time of testing, I want you to understand that there are many collusions of negative forces that are performed perforce without the knowledge of the various globs of mortal energy which do find themselves coming into contact with one another through what is in effect a master plan without benefit of mastery. Do you see? What is taking place in effect is that the various cesspools of human thought and feeling are being linked up through the machinations of the brothers of the shadow until they are welded into one terrible sea of offense against the ascended master purposes and the powers of light. Call this what you will. Call it the Battle of Armageddon if you will. Decide that it is an activity outside of the divine domain if you will. I quite agree. Nevertheless, it is in effect acting upon the world of mortal substance and to the despair of mankind who are watching in this current moment all that is taking place according to their own limited capacity to receive it of conditions in the outer world of form. The conditions are worsening, blessed ones. They have not improved simply because too many individuals are apathetic and sympathetic to mortal delusion. This apathy, this sympathy, this tide of negative energy which flows through mankind in the disguise of mortal love is one of the great shards of shoddiness in human nature. It ought to be disbanded, and men ought to shun it as they would the plague. But because they do not know what it is, they do not fear it. And because it comes to them in the mincing disguise of their mother-in-law or someone closely associated with them, they decide that after all it is not too virulent. But I would like to call to your attention that it is very virulent indeed, and that it is bringing about a tremendous activity of control in the world of mortal form. Surely you must today, blessed ones, recognize how that every man and every man's brother seems to be tooting a trumpet in order to create a success cult in the world of form, whereby he is dedicated to one form of success, his own. Let me make it clear then that if this were a form of God's success and God direction, it could well result in the freeing of mankind. But because it is slanted in one direction, it tends to crib mankind behind a fence of mortal illusion to which they have no defense, do you see? Now then, we are determined to awake mankind from this lethargy of the senses, from all of this which is not real, from this unreality which mankind lay claim to as their own, and use the blessed name of God I Am to say that this is a part of their real world. Well, I am here to tell you that it has no part of divine reality, that it has no part of divine reality within yourselves, and that it is a mortal delusion, the essence of confusion and of disguise which causes mankind to succumb to all the serpent's lies, which are spun in this miserable dream of the miscreants of creation who have saturated the world with their poison. Now I choose to draw back the curtain of darkness from before your eyes and tell you that within the past 3 and 4 years, and even before that, there has been an activity of great destruction in the world whereby assassination has been accomplished of some of the great leaders of the world because they have a new type of assassination technique which is now coming into manifestation. You know, precious ones, that from time to time some individual in the world of form connected with the powers of government does perform a great service to mankind and stands within our ray, mindful of God government over man. When that individual stands to be a great light and benefit to the world, but opposes the establishment which mankind will have to cognize is entrenched in the world of mortal form, they sometimes bring about the ploy of assassination to remove that one from the world scene, and then bring in, by their movements of control upon the chessboard of life, another individual who is not nearly so well qualified, perhaps, but yet seems to be a favored son of those who hope to effect a greater measure of control over him than over the departing one. You are not completely aware of what has happened, but I shall reveal one name, and one only, that ye may know that I have spoken well and true. I reference Dag Hammarskjöld of the United Nations, who was definitely murdered by the powers of blackness, and destruction was wreaked upon him. I call your attention that there have been others, and that this form of assassination threatens to deplete mankind of those leaders that are required at a specific moment of human life in order to help mankind and raise them out of the doldrums of world illusion. Precious ones, understand that we who work with the leaders of the world's government have no choice but to accept those individuals in the world of form who are elected or find their way to the top. Down through the ages, there have been tyrant kings. There have been blessed kings. There have been bad and good manifesting upon the screen of life. But our office, the Chohanship of the first ray, is to work with all leaders regardless of whether or not they are good or bad. For they do wield, precious ones, a tremendous influence over the world of form. And mankind must understand clearly that even the bad leaders do not think themselves to be bad, but often fancy themselves to be very good. And thus, because they believe that they are good, when in reality they are not, we attempt to inject into their consciousness of self-goodness some benefit to the world at large. This benefit, which we seek to convey, is for the good of all mankind. We do not deny that there are times that we fail. But are we to be condemned? Are the ascended masters to be condemned for their failures of influencing mankind in a proper manner, when God himself, the Almighty One, speaking directly out of the flame of their heart, is not able to wield enough influence to control mankind, caught as they are in the downdraft of mortal illusion? Well, I think not. And Almighty God himself has revealed to us and to all of the hierarchy how that the capacitance of individuals does vary from time to time, from the ascended level to the unascended level. And what I am saying tonight may seem to be very superficial, but I tell you, if you could read between the lines, this is certainly lacking in superficiality, and it contains within it the essence of a tremendous lesson in God government and in government without illusion for the mankind of the earth, who are often manipulated not only by their leaders but by their commerce, which, as the marts of commerce flow, continues to see to it that taxation is constantly wreaked upon the people in a spiral of ever-rising prices. designed perhaps to enrich in some among mankind, but in reality making a great breach in the economy, ultimately causing great distress in many parts of the world. You are aware of the fact that Orion, the old man of the hills, in his dictation given to the keepers of the flame during a recent class, did cause to be released a decree to the students at large to affect the power of the outer world destruction intent upon raising prices and creating chaos in America. You are aware of the sturdiness of the womankind of this planet, and particularly your own America, in how that they banded together in the city of Denver and other parts of this nation to resist the tide of rising prices. It is true, precious ones, that they have been criticized by some in the Congress of the United States because of their activity, who have said that the blame should not be placed upon the retailers or even upon the wholesalers, but upon those who were directly responsible for it. But I think that the women of America who are alert will have to admit that they have succeeded to a rather marked degree in focusing attention upon this spiral and thus bringing forth to the eyes of all mankind the power of light when banded together for a specific purpose. You can do something about your world, precious ones, if you recognize the power of divine union, if you recognize your majorityship with Almighty God. You have a tremendous power in union when you get together and decide that a certain thing that is acting in your world is not going to act any longer. There is a tremendous radiation which is drawn forth for a specific purpose among mankind, and that radiation is focused there and evokes in the world of form a response which does cause correction and amendment to be brought into the world of form. Understand then that the law commands respect, and men must respect that which brings forth good fruit. But, precious ones, the law can be employed both negatively and constructively, and men must be aware of just how they employ it. Therefore, the power of decrees, the power of right thinking, and every constructive power ought to be employed against the negative forces which are now running wild in the world. Are you aware, precious ones, of the tremendous temptation in the natural order of things to which the youth of the world are presently subjected? Are you aware of the awful malicious intent created by the jungle drums of dissonance which pour out in the world today, amplified by electronic energy? Do you realize that this jungle beat is a trap for the youth of the world, intended to cause them to respond to the lower levels of creative energy? I tell you that it is a frightening trap, and yet it is spreading all over the world under the name of go-go. I would like to see people understand that this is one way that man can be indeed gone, but it is not the way of the ascended masters, nor it is the way of the Holy Christ self. Therefore today I urge upon you all a summoning of the cosmic energies on behalf of life to reverse the trends of the times. You will have in due time the applause of the youth of the world when once they understand just what you are trying to do. If you go out, precious ones, with a shotgun or a hatchet in the manner of Carrie Nation, bent on destroying and destructing in their world these activities, quite naturally they will rebel against you. But if you understand that by evoking the power of the law and calling forth light into their world, you can bring about a tremendous awakening in the hearts of America, which will cause the accent to be transferred from the beat of dissonance and destruction to the chords and choruses of heavenly response, you will see the rebirth in this nation of that which is ultimately destined to become universal virtue. We want, and the beloved archangels want, to see the families of America and the world reflective of their God design. But I say in the name of heaven, how can the blessed mothers today, who are carrying children within their form, with a cigarette dangling out of their mouth and intoxication within their belly, be expected to bring forth those type of children which are the children of the new age? You should understand that this is a deliberate plot which has been effected through the marts of commerce, whereby the advertising industry has continually pumped into the world order the idea is that it is smart to do this and smart to do that. while they have strangled the voice of the powers of light and denied them the right to have access to the airwaves for a counter purpose. I want you all to know that this is not a thrust of outer world significance, nor is it a churchy activity which is designed to say to mankind, you are so good and so virtuous, and the rest of the world is not. This is a unified activity of light, whereby the heavenly host, taking a fatherly interest in the children of mankind, are coming down and demanding a repudiation of the laws of life which mankind have created that are bringing about their destruction and causing the incoming children, unwanted in many cases, to produce upon the screen of life more and more putrefaction of mortal substance and less of the beauty of the cosmic Christ. Understand then that popularity is no proof of reality. We know today that mankind will not always feel that that which we do is popular in the eyes of the mass mind. But we know what is good for mankind, just as parents know what is good for their children. They would not think of having their children steeped in the destructive activity which they themselves willingly admit they have been steeped in. Yet they continue to support those endeavors which are bringing about a destructive activity in the world of form. Well, I want every one of you to know that certain decisions have been made by the Karmic Board that will affect this entire planet and its destiny in the very near future. I want you to know that serious decisions in the cosmic councils have been made, and regardless of the number of blessed children of the light who have made their calls to the light for the assistance of mankind, unless there is some recognition in the eyes of mankind at large of the seriousness of this situation, we may step back and let the dissonant forces that mortals have set into operation go their full rate of decay to become a boomerang of mortal activity, bringing itself then down in a great and tumultuous series of destructive activities wreaked upon mankind because they have not loved enough or been willing enough to understand. They have lived in destruction, they have sown destruction, and they may well reap the whirlwind unless there is a reversal of the trend. I tell you, precious ones, that as this class continues, we hope to reveal more that is significant to mankind and of grave import in this time. We know that in this room are many who have called for a reversal of the trends currently in vogue among mankind. But we are so aware, almost painfully aware if it were possible, that those calls, effective as they are, cannot continue to stand before the Karmic Board as the voice of authority for the entire world, even though it is just and right and proper that the voice of wisdom should be overheard by the powers of heaven and heeded. For the law itself has demanded that those who are sending forth discord shall have that discord return to themselves and come full circle according to the cosmic law. Let those who will think that this will not be fulfilled. We hope that it will not be fulfilled. We pray that it will not be fulfilled. And we will continue to do all in our power to see that mankind have their wanted freedom. But unless there is some recognition, some greater response, some comprehension of what is taking place in the world form, you may find that the rug has been pulled out from under you, and you may find that you are indeed in the lap of God. I want you to know, however, in a comforting manner, that there is no child of the light that has earnestly, honestly, and sincerely called for their fellow man, for their fellow man's release from darkness, discord, and decay, that shall find that they themselves will be overcome by the powers that shall be wreaked upon the world. We are determined to provide an ark of safety through the ark of the covenant for every single son of heaven who knows that he must love enough and give enough and serve enough until every man, woman, and child upon this planet finds their ultimate freedom. Be not afraid then, precious ones, of what mankind are invoking. Be not afraid of the arrow that flieth by day, or the pestilence that passeth out by night. For the light of 10,000 suns shall fulfill in the sons of heaven the salvation of God. Stand still then and see the salvation of God, which he will work in this day, a work to bring in the golden age, that mankind may dwell no longer in the tents of fear. One brother set against another brother, one activity set against another activity, but that all shall dwell in the tents of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of very gods, the Lord of the very earth, the power that is poured out from the great central sun, the radiance from Sirius, the power of the sun behind the sun. Lo, the will of God is manifest within you. Honor it, love it, pour your integrity to it, and watch the salvation that shall flow as a fount from the very core of thy being. White fire is thy being. White fire is thy being. White fire is thy being. Charge it now with blue lightning love. Charge it now with blue lightning love. Charge it now with blue lightning love. And know that the will of God is the will of immortal freedom, breathing forth into hallowed space the love and power of his face, shining as the countenance of the sun behind the sun. Holy is his name, and wisdom sitteth upon his brow, and wisdom is the power of tranquility. Peace flowing forth like a river, crowned with golden waves of divine intelligence, the solution and resolution of every problem now raging in the world of form. Blue lightning is my love. Blue lightning is my name. Blue lightning is my love. Blue lightning is my flame. I came in love. I go in love. I remain anchored to that God above. The will from him descends to you. The will of him is ever new. Peace, love, joy, and wonder without limit in the miracle-making will of God, transcending us all. I thank you. And I say to every knight and lady of the Table Round, the world quaking in terror can be the world aflame with his will, and error can cease to fulfill delusion mortal, and confusion erased in the countenance of peace and the supreme ecstasy of his will fulfill his will in ye all. I thank you.